Gary, round 9 against the Sandringham Zebras, a classic game of football, but unfortunately a 7-point loss, and I suppose it was a bitter pill to swallow for everyone involved, and it probably hasn't actually happened very often that we've lost 2 in a row in your Port Melbourne tenure as well. So what's your emotions like a couple of days later?
Yeah, you're probably pretty right. It would have been a good game if you're actually just watching it from the sidelines, and obviously even better if you're a Sandringham supporter. But look, the starting point for me was to see what our effort and our intensity and work rate was like after the week before against Box Hill, because that was certainly below par, and I think we actually improved in those areas. But where I think we've certainly got an imbalance is it's basically a bit like the 3 phases of the game. When we've got it, when they have it, or it's in dispute, I think we're certainly not good enough in each of those 3 areas at the minute. And of course what you then do is you give yourself not as much of a chance as you should if you've actually got those 3 things right. And a side like Sandringham, which I've got no doubt's improved from last year, they're going to make you pay. And there were just little things in the game where we regained momentum, then we lost momentum, basically through our skill errors and of course our poor decision making, and then they would go forward and subsequently take a mark and of course convert and kick some easy goals. I know they had 30 scoring shots to our 23, but some of those were rushed, and even still at the 14-minute mark of the last quarter we were still 8 points in front. And okay, we can all talk about Sam O'Sullivan's miss, but we still had a genuine opportunity to win the ball back from that subsequent kick-in and then go back inside our 50. And of course we set up poorly and we didn't work and have that cohesion to work together. And of course they took it down the other end of the ground, coast to coast, and scored the goal that got them up, and unfortunately we fell behind a bit.
Both sides were probably in the same boat here, and I suppose defensively we've seemed to struggle a little bit the last couple of weeks, and you've already mentioned on Saturday that the fact that the numbers probably show we need to improve probably about 3 or 4 goals probably defensively to match it with some of those best sides in the competition. So would it be fair to say that that's going to be a real heavy focus over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, certainly it's got to be, Sam, because I think Williamstown at the minute are conceding about 68 points a game. I think Footscray's around about 69, and before last weekend's game we were 88, so it's a fair gap. And one of the philosophies always is that if you want to be there when the whips are cracking, you've got to actually figure prominently in both those areas, whether it's attack and obviously defence. And if you can finish in the top 4 in both those categories, you give yourself a chance. So having said that, it's actually more about our team defence. You can't just isolate what the defenders are doing, because they need it starting close to our goal. And I think our forwards are inconsistent as to how hard they work when they don't have the ball, and they can make one effort and of course then not second and third efforts, and we're talking about manic pressure as a non-negotiable. Then our mids tend to get the ball chipped either over their head or they're exiting out without too much pressure, and of course they're free to do what they want, so our mids aren't then working hard enough in that two-way running, as we call it, that defensive transition running. And then of course if it's getting in quickly, well, our defenders haven't had a chance to regroup and of course then be possibly either able to win the contest with intercept marks or even just halve the contest and of course then force a ball up. So it's right across the board really, and we're not having too many trouble scoring, as again you've seen we're pretty efficient, but there's certainly some defensive mechanisms that need to be employed from no doubt what we've been working on, but also to getting better for the rest of the year.
And touching on defence, we should mention Lucas Cook, who was outstanding on Saturday and repelled almost single-handedly numerous Sandringham attacks at various stages throughout the afternoon. You must really be rapt with the way he's starting to, really fit into Port Melbourne. Oh,
no doubt, Sam, and he's probably been our best defender over the last 3 weeks. He generally, if he doesn't win his contest, he's actually very good at halving it. He's got a good pair of hands, and he generally tries to initiate some real spread and switch play coming out of our defence. And of course, if he's doing that on his own, he obviously needs support from the other 6 defenders that are around him throughout the course of the day. So it's easy to identify when you go through your best and fairest votes and say that there's genuinely 5 or 6 guys over the last couple of weeks that have probably won their position, but also too had some effect on the game. And that means that what are the other 16 or 17 doing in relation to their positions and their play? So it's a little bit lopsided in that regard at the minute. And again, it is always going to be an evolution of where this team can go. And certainly the last 2 weeks haven't really given us an opportunity to just give ourselves a bit of breathing space for possibly later in the season. And we've obviously got Frankston on Sunday this week, so we're probably 2 games, I think, shy as far as our winning ratio goes at the minute. Dropping it to Werribee early in the season and dropping it again on the weekend here against Sandy at home are things that we don't take lightly. So always best to get back on the horse and, of course, be able to take out what we didn't get out of the game on Saturday against Frankston on Sunday.
And another fan question as part of the Ask Ayresy initiative on social media, and Phil Birchmore, who must be a Kerrang local, he specifically wants to know about one of his fellow Kerrang boys, Brandon Hayes, and how he's going and how close he is to a senior call-up. We would have noticed he was named best on ground in the 37-point Development League win, so how's he tracking?
Yeah, well, that's been a positive. I think the last 2 weeks the development team has played some pretty good footy, and of course Box Hill are always thereabouts as far as being in the top 1 or 2 and won numerous premierships. And of course then again on Saturday against Sandringham, I thought they performed pretty well with quite a young group. And Brandon's had a bit of inconsistent form due to either illness or work, or he's actually came really late in the pre-season. So he's really got to work himself into investing into the group, I think, as an overall, not just as a teammate, but also too as a person. And you're right, he did play pretty well, so he'll certainly come under consideration for what we need to do with our senior side this week. And we always need players coming out of the development, knocking on the door of obviously senior selection, because if players get comfortable thinking that there's potentially not a lot coming up from development, then I think it takes the edge off where we need to be. And we'll make some changes this week. We have to, because we've obviously not been happy with the output of the last couple of weeks.
And so you touched on Frankston, they're up next. Obviously, we're hoping for a win first and foremost after the past 2 weeks, but what aspects of our game will you be looking for most improvement out of Sunday's match?
It's pretty easy really, Sam. We touched on the 3 phases of the game, so we've got to get a better balance in that. We've also got to be able to get more guys in better form consistently across the board. We don't want to be sitting here and saying there's probably half a dozen guys that have been doing their bit for the team and having an impact on the game. We want 23 contributors, and that's a must for a VFL standalone team. I don't think we've got that for one reason or another, and purely and simply winning more of what the contests are as a general rule. And if we can't win the contest, halve the contest and stop the opposition being able to get easy goals. And we work really hard to get into the game, stay in the game to a degree, but then once there's a little bit of pressure, we seem to fold a little bit. And that's not been a trademark of Port Melbourne sides over the last 7 or 8 years. So there's a lot to work on, mate, and that's the beauty of a coach. You're never satisfied, and of course we've just got to keep chipping away. We've got 2 more weeks before the bye. We obviously will get an opportunity to review things about that halfway mark of the season, but certainly this week against Frankston, the following week against Essendon, we need to get on the horse and get back amongst the winners list.
Well, Gary, thanks for your time again on Borough TV, and best of luck against Frankston.
Thanks, Sam.